opportunity. I am not a researcher. I don't come to present to tell people some new thing I've discovered in my research. I'm not a historian. I'm not a witness, political agency, military witness, and talk about something I saw when I worked in the government. I'm not a contactee. I don't have a story to tell. I've heard plenty of really cool ones, but I don't have a story to tell. I've never even had a sighting. I'm not an entertainer, though occasionally I do entertain. And I always thought maybe that should have been my career. Right? Now that The Daily Show has found their new host, well, that door is now shut. I am a political activist. There are many types of activism, but one of the most important part is advocacy. I'm an advocate. And what advocacy is about is getting a government, could be the states in the South United States, it could be the government of South Africa, it could be the British ruling class of India, it could be any number of institutions. It's getting them to do something they don't want to do. And the other part of advocacy is telling people things they don't want to hear. And there's a saying about advocates and activists, which is very true. When they're wrong, people really don't like them. And when they're right, people really don't like them. All right? So this is going to be a tough presentation a little bit. It's going to have some surprises, some twists. And some of you are going to be uncomfortable before this is over, but it's okay. I understand. I respect that. But I am here because activism is about getting something done. And when you devote your time to it, particularly if millions devote their time to it, it usually means that what you want done is really important. And it's really important because it affects the lives of a lot of people, even the course of nations. It's serious business. Ask the people of color that lived in South Africa, the people of color in the United States in the 1930s, the gays, lesbians, bisexuals who are coming out now and asserting their rights, and a host of other peoples and nations right now that are under onslaught from the policies of states. It's serious business. Millions die because policies are bad or not corrected in time. That's my job. I'm sorry if it can get tough. So tonight we're going to talk about some things. This is Disclosure Canada, so we're going to talk about Canada.
The title of my address is What You Don't See Is What You Get. Because what's going on in the world is not obvious. Of the people I know, there's not more than maybe 2 or 3 in 100 that really know what is going on. And yet, things are going on which affect every single one of us in very real and sometimes rather frightening ways. My address is a little bit like the State of the Union address in the US, stripped of all the lies and exaggerations one hears in them. I plan to talk about the 3 or 4 most important topics facing the world today: global warming, the international banking and financial cartel, and the extraterrestrial presence and relationship with the United States Armed Forces, all set in the wider context of what is going on in the United States and in the world.
What's the end purpose of this whole UFO disclosure? Or
Look, man,
is there an agenda about it?
We're so outmatched by whatever we're dealing with. All right, that's my opinion. I think we're totally outmatched. But for me, the agenda is a very simple thing. I don't want to live in a world where my government lies to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a world where the wheels have fallen off the machine and I have no control over the direction we're going. And to me, lying about this most important of subjects constitutes a death to the kind of world that I would like to see. A world where people actually have the ability to have input into their government.
It's about so much more, too, than just the subject of UFO.
You know, I don't think that this should be dealt with by, in the terms of rule by secrecy. I think it should be dealt with.
You think?
I think people should be allowed to have information about
And
it.
it can't be left in the hands of the government. solely.
No, exactly. And then you have people saying, well, it doesn't really matter what government thinks. We're doing our own disclosure. Well, that's important, but it does matter, right? Because I don't want to like have a world where I've got this opaque government that just does what they do, and we do our own thing. I feel like the government should be responsive to the people.
Well,
Are
the
they even
government
gonna
has a way
care?
of making their thing your
That's what I
thing.
feel like they're doing their own thing, and no matter what we
Well, who cares?
ask of them.
Oh, these other beings or the government?
Just disclosure, basically. Like, they're going to do their own thing regardless of what
Who? Whoever
people.
the
So you're trying to get the government. That's what you're hoping. The
ordinary
government
people.
starts
Well,
to
if ordinary
disclose
people
it.
don't want to care, then I can't really do much about that. We're living in a dumb world where people are basically being dumbed down more and more anyway. In my country, they're caring about who's going to be on the new $20 bill instead of like important things.
The reason they built a new capitol under the Denver, or next to and down below the Denver airport, is because the number one concern of those who are in the know in Washington, D.C., those that are essentially, the privileged class, who then talk to their wealthy friends elsewhere, but they sure as hell don't talk to you. The number one concern that they have is that Washington, D.C. is in fact the number one target for a terrorist nuclear attack, period. No other country is even close. I think that Israel, Tel Aviv would be running a second, but we are number one. And that in their view, it is inevitable. Inevitable. How do you stop it? Right? Remember the southern border? Our southern border? Whole soccer teams could come across and set up a league. Couldn't stop that. Do you know how many cargo containers that come into the United States every day? How many hundreds of thousands? Big containers, metal things, with doors on them. Do you know how many of those we screen? 2%. So, totally appropriate. If Washington, D.C. has a nuclear event, that's it. The government's gone, and they have two choices. They can go to another fine American city, Memphis, Atlanta, and say, we just lost our city, and we'd like to relocate the government to your city. Right? You okay with that? Does that work for you? Nah, it's not going to happen. So they're going to put it underground. They're going to put it in an area that's in the center of the country that is way out from everything and easily protect. People can then come and go. The entire government force of the executive, legislative, and judicial branch can come and go, and you won't even know they came and went. They come on up, they get in a plane and gone, and come back, and whatever. It's absolutely perfect. Makes a lot of sense. Of course, they didn't tell us about it. They didn't tell the American people they were doing this. But they don't tell us anything, by the way, of importance. I mean, you understand that. If they told us that there was, in fact, a need for that, they would have to explain what the need was, and that means the risk of a nuclear event in Washington, and of course that meant all the property values would go down, since all these people own property in the area. That's no good. Right? So it's just no reason to concern the public. Let's don't upset them. Right? We don't want to tell them anything that will upset them, particularly if it serves our purpose to not tell them anything that upsets them. Now, here is what happens if a nuclear event goes off in Washington, D.C. Before I go there, let me answer the obvious question. Why are there people out there that would want to blow up our country's capital? What have we done?
At the end of my book, I list some wonderful things that are going on at the micro level. Individuals starting projects, fantastic, with fantastic results. And what we have to do is multiply that by thousands, by tens of thousands. In other words, to create a tsunami of change. A tsunami of thousands of actions that promise hope over despair, life over death, and love over hatred. Is it possible? Yes. If enough of us can band together, because we are writing our own history, and so we have to do this if we want to change the history that is going to affect our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. It can be done, and we have to do it, because we owe them a legacy of hope. Thank you very much.
Maybe myself I'll just find